With pick 19, the Melbourne Football Club have selected Jacob Van Roon from Claremont.
There you go. The opposition defender was shifted across to slow him up a little bit after he'd kicked 3 goals in the first quarter. So intercept marker down back. So, yeah, as you described, Sarah, a guy that can go forward as well. Lovely size at 193, so the old 6'4".
And interesting too, the last couple of players drafted had excellent final series. So, therefore, playing it right out, playing well. Yep. In the tough games at the end of the season. And
heading to a team that had a very good final series, or the best final series in the D's, Kingy.
194 centimetres, Sarah, and he's a bit of a swingman, as Shifter just said. I love his ability to stay in marking contests. He's a contested marking beast. He protects drop zone. He knows where his opponent always is. He knows where the location is and then protects, as you can see there, falling forward into the mark. We see that from the best forwards in the competition. So his ability to not only win one-on-ones, but to bring the ball to the ground when he's outnumbered 2v1, or to stay in marking contests like this. I think this is called play and he gets a free kick, but you can see the competitor in this guy, and I think that's what Melbourne will be really happy with. I mean, you see him falling behind there. We see a lot of that at AFL level, Tom Hawkins and the like, so this guy's a ripper, forward or back. Yeah, we're going to head to Mick Ablett now for a first-hand take on Jacob's style of play. 24 goals in his final 6 Colt games in the WAFL. This is impressive stuff.
Yeah, it is, Sarah. He kicked 34 in 9 games across the season, and I was actually quite surprised to see him a couple of times play deep defence as well. So what he's going to give Melbourne is real genuine flexibility, someone that they can play around with a little bit. Does he eventually go forward to replace Ben Brown when he retires? Does he go down back and give Jake Lever and Stephen May a hand? But wherever he lands, what he does possess is leadership. And when you look at the big bodies, the Clayton Olivers, the Christian Petrarcas, he fits with that sort of mix, but what he also gives them is great character and just another string to the Melbourne Demons' bow.
And it's been really eye-catching tonight, I suppose, the WAFL Colts players and the players from the West who have had a really uninterrupted run with their junior football being able to have a big hand in this first round tonight. No question. I think Mickey nailed it too in terms of when you look at the dynamic of Ben Brown resurrected, you know, where his football's going, will play some good football, you think, over the next couple of years. Tom McDonald is the other tall that floats consistently down there. But then in the future, you've got Jackson, who will go into the ruck a little bit, along with Jacob standing next to him in terms of his development as a key forward when Brown and McDonald, you know, finally hang them up. They might be good for a while, the D's.
I think so. I think so. The way that their midfield is set up, it's going to be strong for some period of time, and their forwards get good looks at the footy, whether you're a mid-size or a tall.
Long wait for one flag. They might have a dynasty coming up. This is pick 20 and should be the last pick of this evening, the first round. It is with the Brisbane Lions and the pick's in, so we'll wait to head to AFL headquarters. Of course, the draft will continue tomorrow night on Fox Footy from 7 p.m.
With pick 20, the Brisbane Lions have selected Kai Lohmann from the Greater Western Victoria Rebels.
Congratulations to Kai. Headed to the Brisbane Lions, and Shifter, this is another bolter for the first round.
Yeah, I'd suggest him as a mercurial player. I'd heard about him. The first time I seen him was up at Mars Stadium in Ballarat. Within 10 minutes, he's taken the mark of the day and kicked the goal of the day. He can do special things, this boy. You don't have to be a genius to notice that. He's got a bit of Isaac Heaney about him when he's forward. He's courageous in the air. He can push up through midfield. He noticed he tested well as an athlete too at the Combine in Bendigo right at the end of the year. Missed that rep game because of injury, so it's just that day where I was in Ballarat, I certainly could say, well, that guy looks to have the talent to be listed, and obviously the clubs have seen a wee bit more than that. He was in that group that we thought might go early tomorrow night, and so we all see it differently. A boy from Lake Wendouree, St Pat's again. We heard them talk about St Pat's and Howard Clark. He's there as a guest tonight with other boys from the Ballarat Rebels, but great for Kai to get his opportunity. Yeah, I'd certainly agree. The adjustment of moving to Brisbane, which they'll settle in nicely. But then outside of that, Shifty, you mentioned it, there's some players. There's been a couple of players who expected to go tomorrow who have been called out tonight. Some tonight who had that expectation of a first round. They'll get picked up second and third round, no question at all. There's some players, you know, with some great talent that are still sitting on the table.
Yeah, plenty more still to play out in this draft, I'm sure. There will be plenty of guys that won't sleep that well tonight.
That's
but
right.
Tomorrow will be a little smoother. Well, we're going to wrap up on the other side of this break. And don't forget, the sport never stops on Fox Sports. Next week, for racing enthusiasts, Bathurst is going to be bigger than ever. Welcome back. It has been a life-changing night for 20 young men who have become AFL footballers. There were hugs, tears and, well, moments to savour as family and friends enjoyed the ride with these talented young men who will entertain and delight footy fans, hopefully, for the next decade to come. It's been a privilege to watch the first round. The second round will continue tomorrow and, well, we've had plenty of highlights, Brad Johnson.
Oh, we certainly have. Jason Horne-Francis, congratulations, #1 pick in 2021. And then you go through some of the names, Dacos and Darcy, famous names at respective clubs, the Bulldogs and the Pies. And look, the talent in that top 10 was unbelievable. And there was a few surprises towards the back end of the first round.
I'll go with out of Africa as my surprise. I throw in the 3, Neil Erasmus from Johannesburg and the 2 South Sudanese boys. So 3 out of Africa. Who would have thought that? And that's the power of our game over here. These boys obviously have come out and then seen what happens in the local environment. They play AFL and they switch from their cricket or their basketball to take up the best code of football, we think, and the best form of entertainment in our country, and that's AFL. And we're glad we're getting that elite talent coming into our game. Boys that can do anything, and they're going to excite our fans for years to come, those boys.
Yeah, can't wait to see all of these players become household names over the next few years as we have a look at where everyone went in round 1. Jason Horne-Francis, as expected, went to North Melbourne. The bids then came for Sam Darcy in 2 and also Nick Dacos. So Dacos perhaps regarded as a bit of a steal slipping down to 4th. Collingwood will love that they've been able to get him for that price.
Yeah, save some points there, the Pies with some draft picks. But Finn Callaghan, the vision that Kingy showed in that left foot step in terms of back through the corridor, similar to what Marcus Bontempelli can do on a regular basis. So that's a good pick, I think, in terms of pick 3.
Lots of defenders picked up in this first round tonight, Kevin. Perhaps a sign of the way the game's going. Some run-off halfbacks, some intercepting defenders. We know how valuable they are in the modern game.
Yeah, particularly those that you described, the dashers, you know, that'll be the 60-metre players. Those will break the lines, take risks, if you like Josh Sin, bounce the ball and, you know, get it quickly into the forward line, really work on their kicking to make sure that those targets are hit inside 50.
A bit of wheeling and dealing to go on between the clubs overnight, you imagine,
well,
with
there was
some
wheeling and dealing for pick 1. We're all sitting here with the excitement, Sarah, of pick 1. Here we go. Trade. Seriously, North Melbourne. That AFL have to make a rule. That can never happen again.
Not quite
never
the big
happen
moment
again.
that we were hoping for. David King, there's plenty of talent left on the board. Of course, the draft will continue from round 2 onwards tomorrow. Who are going to be the names that are going to be snapped up in just a moment?
Well, before you get to that, Jono, it has to happen again, because what happens if the Kangaroos choose Darcy with pick 1? And the Dogs are forced to use pick 23. There's no other option but to do it that way, unfortunately. So that's just the way it has to unfold. I know you don't like
the bubble,
it.
mate. I want the excitement, Kingy.
Yeah, well, you want the excitement, but you'd be spewing if the Dogs lost pick 23. So I'm fascinated by the jockeying for position. Remember back to trade period, when everyone was trying to get their hands on Fremantle's pick 21, the first pick of night 2 in the draft, because of the price that every team's going to come with now to try and purchase that pick. There's half a dozen players on that list there of next available that we thought would go in the top 15 tonight. So they're still there. So you can just imagine what Fremantle are thinking. Do we just hold out? What do we get for that pick? Do we slide back half a dozen picks and get a future round 2? Is that worth more than what's on the board there? There's a couple of West Australians there that they'd be looking at, given that they've already got 2 homegrowns. The next pick after that is the Kangaroos. So if Fremantle say, no, we're happy to sit tight with what we've got here, we think we can get a player, does that then flow onto the Kangaroos or Hawthorn or Geelong, who've already made a couple of moves tonight? So I think the real interest for me overnight, and this will be a late night for these guys, those next half a dozen picks are absolute bargains. Because of the bolters we saw tonight, I think we saw probably 6 bolters. We haven't seen that before in the top 20 on round night 1 of the draft. So it's so exciting for these clubs that they know more about these kids than we do. We've seen them half a dozen times in 2 years. So I'm excited to see what happens overnight to pick 21, 22 and 23.
Yeah, let's head west now to get Mick Ablett's take on this, because the person at the top of the list of the players that haven't been taken up yet is Matthew Johnson, a West Australian player from Subiaco. You'd expect him to be picked up very early in round 2. Was that the biggest surprise for you tonight, Mick?
Yeah, it certainly was, Sarah. I think back, and I just had a chat with Matt just then off air, I think back to Devon Robertson, who was in a very, very similar position 12 months ago, missed out on the first round, sat there in Melbourne, would have had a long, more than likely sleepless night. But what it can do is build resilience. We saw Devon Robertson get called out in the first pick on the second day. It didn't stop him from playing for the Brisbane Lions early in the year. He had a fantastic year up there in a very, very good side. So Matt Johnson will get his chances, no doubt about that. And at the end of the day, him along with lots of the other boys, it's a number. Once you're on an AFL list, you're every much a chance of playing as what the person is that went pick 1. So what I can tell you though, guys, over here in the West is the Purple Haze is definitely back. The room's been filled with it tonight. I've just seen Justin Longmuir and Bob Murphy chatting to Neil Erasmus and Jai Amos. And it's a very, very excited Fremantle contingent here in WA.
Yeah, the Dockers going with the local picks, and I suppose just because of the technicalities of the way we're doing it this year, it is split over 2 nights. Now, last year it was the world's longest night, and you would be picked up on that night. But it just means that you just have to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, no question that Matty Johnson does get picked up. Mickey Ablett's assessment of it is spot on, and unfortunately he's the one sitting there tonight that didn't have his name called out, the excitement, the build-up. But as Mick said, his name gets called out, he'll get to work and away he'll go. It is totally forgotten about.
OK, we're going to head to Marvel Stadium where Sarah Ollie has Adrian Caruso from the GWS Giants with us. The Giants were pretty active players tonight.
Well, Adrian, Finn Callaghan, the number 3 pick, he's a player that just got better and better as the year progressed. Compared to Marcus Bontempelli of all players, is that comparison fair?
Yeah, obviously Finn's a high-end talent that we're apt to bring into our footy club. You know, there's comparisons there. We think he's a bit different. You know, we just love his outside run, which we think complements our midfield with his speed and, you know, just his power to get across the ground. And we feel like, yeah, with those mids that we've got on the inside, Finn can really complement that with his outside speed.
He seemed pretty happy to get to the Giants. Did a little birdie tell him perhaps a little bit earlier that is the club that he'd be going to?
Yeah, we did go out there on Sunday and have a chat with him and his parents. You know, for us it was more let him know, I suppose, that, you know, unless anything changed, he was going to be our man and sort of show him the love and give him an understanding and a preparation in his head about what was going to happen. So, yeah, we were able to give him that heads up, which we felt like, yeah, kept his mind at ease.
Finn is a player we all thought would go in the top 5, but there's been some bolters tonight, and Lecker Lear with pick 15, he's now a Giant. Tell us about this superior talent.
Yeah, Leck's a player that we watched throughout the year and, you know, everyone's probably seen his highlights package, but with Leck it was more about, I suppose, his character and, yeah, I suppose his dedication to get better, and that was evidenced by the, you know, the improvement that he made this year, you know, where he's come from nowhere and, you know, it was our second pick, it was our last pick and, you know, people might see it as a surprise, but we just obviously really rated him. We were keen to get a tall in the draft and he was the next best tall on the list.
As you say, your last pick, so you're done for this draft, done for 2021. There's been some bolters though, hasn't it? Does it mean there's some pretty good players still available tomorrow? Yeah, definitely. We're pretty much done. So, yeah, we'll be watching keenly tomorrow. There's definitely some names on the board that I can see other clubs trying to trade up for in the early part of the second round. And then we'll just be waiting to see where our academy bid for Josh Fay comes and we'll match that and that'll be us. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, the Giants look to have secured a beauty in Finn Callaghan. And Shifter, I suppose the nature of the last 2 years means that there is a great unknown. There are a lot of players that have barely touched a football in the past 2 years. So a lot of this scouting, it's always speculative, but in particular in recent times. Yes, and Adrian Caruso there mentioned Josh Fay as one that they will match the bid on tomorrow. He's a boy from Canberra up in New South Wales that Jono was fantastic in that game for the Australian side. He won the medal for best on ground. He's a left footer, a powerful left footer, can play down in defence or up on the wing, and we'll see when that bid comes. It should be in the mid-20s, we think, at least. All right, Sarah's been very busy. She's got Craig Cameron with her now. Well, Craig, we saw a few bolters this evening, none more so than Mac Andrew. You seem to have an absolute ripper there. He seems to be a really versatile kid.
Yeah, he's got great athleticism, good speed, kicks it well both sides, which is good for a boy of 200 centimetres. we think he can play forward and ruck and even play down back if that's the way we chose to go. So I think he's a fair project player. It'll take a little while to get some meat on his bones, but we're excited.
He's also been compared to Nick Cox, who of course was taken by the Bombers last year. Could he perhaps even press up onto a wing?
Maybe. We're probably happy with the structure we've got at the moment on the wings, so I'm not sure we'd do that. I think we'll try and settle him in a key position.
Now, you've got 2 draft picks remaining. They're very late tomorrow. One, of course, was meant to be for Hugh Greenwood. Have you worked out what you're going to do with that pick now?
Yeah, we've got some ideas, but being late, we've got to wait to see what happens earlier in the draft. But look, I think we're pretty much under control with what will happen there.
How were you when you heard the news about Hugh?
Oh, we were disappointed. You know, we thought that Hugh would be really handy for us next year, but you know, these things happen sometimes in footy. You have plans in place and sometimes they don't work out, but you get another chance at the draft, in the pre-season draft and the rookie draft to fill that.
Out with the old and in with the new, you've got Mac Andrew. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Well done to the Gold Coast Suns. Of course, the draft continues tomorrow night right here on Fox Footy from 7 p.m. We will have round 2 and hopefully many more dreams will come true for the players that have missed out tonight. There's still plenty of talent left on the board. Brad Johnson, thank you so much for tonight. And also Kevin Sheen, we always love getting your thoughts. Thanks. You are the guru, you know all. So thank you so much for being part of our team. To David King and also Mick Ablett, Sarah Ollie and Tom Morris. Well done to you. Thanks so much for your company. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow right here on Fox Footy.